Afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the National Clean Energy Workforce Alliance. Today's session is state strategies to support the growing clean energy workforce. I'm really excited about today's session. We are convened today with support from Bank of America. We're really excited to bring to you this session, given all of the exciting things that are happening in workforce with our state energy offices. So I will go ahead and get us started with our webinar and some introductions while we wait for some more people to join. I am with Interstate Renewable Energy Council, Cynthia Finley, Vice President of Workforce and Strategic Innovation. For those of you who are new, IREC we build the foundation for rapid adoption of clean energy and energy efficiency to benefit people, the economy, and our planet. I am the Vice President of Workforce, so we are focused on workforce strategies to creating pipelines to careers in energy across the country. And we're excited to be a part of the National Clean Energy Workforce Alliance, which has been around for a couple of years now, working to diversify the clean energy and renewable energy workforce. This webinar series happens once a month, the third Thursday of every month, and we're excited to bring you today's session talking to NASEO as well as 3 state Department of Energy offices. Today's agenda, I'll do a brief introduction about the Clean Energy Workforce Alliance for those of you who might be new today. I will introduce our panel discussion, which will be state strategies to support the growing clean energy workforce, and our Q&A will be facilitated by Deborah, the President of U.S. Partnership for Education for Sustainable Development. As I said, I'm Cynthia Finley, Vice President of Workforce Strategies and Innovation at IREC, and I'm joined today by Dr. Deborah, the President of U.S. Partnership for Education and Sustainable Development. We have 2 other folks who are on the leadership committee for the Alliance, Dr. Janelle Hills-Thomas and Dr. Gerard Millikan, who couldn't be with us today. The listeners are all on mute for today's session. We will be using the Q&A tab to send questions, and we have a Q&A session at the end of our panel discussion for this webinar. So just feel free to drop your questions in the Q&A, which can be found at the bottom toolbar of your Zoom. We would love for you to introduce yourself in the chat so we know who's here. Tell us where you're from and what's your purpose sector. Are you education, employer, training provider? We'd love to know that. If you have any other information you'd like to share, please drop that in the chat as well. We are recording this session, and we will send out a copy of this presentation as well as the recording at the end of this session. Our next session, which Deb will talk about at the end of today's webinar, will be the third Thursday of each month at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. The National Clean Energy Workforce Alliance focuses on 4 different sectors: funding and program design, support for workers and learners, employer recruitment and retention, training, education, and credentialing. And we're really focused on diversifying the clean energy workforce and expanding at the rate which we need to with all of the federal resources to advance to 100% clean energy for everyone. Please feel free to visit irecusa.org to sign up for the National Clean Energy Alliance webinar series, as well as our newsletter. We will be sending out a newsletter every month. We also have a LinkedIn page. If you would like to join that, please visit our website to get connected there as well. We are really excited about the LinkedIn page to offer you the opportunity to connect and chat and dialogue with your peers and stakeholders in the industry. I am super excited to introduce you today to our panelists. We have Grace Lowe, the Senior Program Manager for the National Association of State Energy Offices, also known as NASEO. We have Cam Black, Managing Director of HSEO's Jobs and Outreach Branch, called JOB. We have Nola Hastings, the Senior Grants Program Coordinator for the Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation, the Office of Energy Programs. and Adele Ferranti, the Director of Workforce Development and Training with New York State Energy Research and Development Authority. And I'm going to turn it over to this fine group today to bring to you the presentation.
Great. Thanks so much, Cynthia, and thank you for the opportunity to speak with you all today. My name is Grace Lowe. I'm a Senior Program Manager at the National Association of State Energy Officials, or NASEO. And I want to save most of our time today for the state presentations, but first just wanted to set the stage and provide a national level perspective on how state energy offices are supporting the clean energy workforce. Next slide. So just briefly, if you're not familiar with NASEO, we're the National Nonprofit Membership Association for the 56 state and territory energy offices, and our role is to facilitate peer learning and offer resources and support to the state energy offices, as well as advocate for their interests at the federal level. And if you're not familiar with state energy offices, they are governor-designated entities within state government and typically serve at the direction of the governor. And while their priorities and capacities vary state by state, their work often includes developing state energy plans and strategies, analyzing policy and market trends, convening and communicating with stakeholders and residents, informing state-level energy policy, regulatory, and legislative decisions, and supporting research development and deployment for various energy technologies through incentives, financing, technical assistance, and other mechanisms. Next slide. And so NASEO supports the state energy offices across a number of different program areas, including buildings, transportation, energy security and resilience, equity, and workforce and economic development. And we've seen workforce come up as a common thread across all of these issue areas because state energy offices really understand the value in investing in and supporting the workforce in order to meet their state's economic, environmental, and energy goals. Next slide. So the historic level of federal funding available for clean energy and just overall growth in the clean energy jobs nationwide has really heightened that realization among state energy offices. And as you all know, the energy job market has experienced continued growth with 300,000 jobs added in 2022, over 40% of which were clean energy jobs, with significant growth in EVs as well as offshore wind. And although the future demand for these jobs is a little bit hard to predict, a recent study by BW Research and E2 estimates that large clean energy projects announced within just the first year of the Inflation Reduction Act are expected to create or support over 300,000 jobs annually during the construction period, and then an additional almost 100,000 jobs each year during project operation. Next slide. So what is the role of state energy offices in supporting this growing clean energy workforce? For most state energy offices, workforce development is not their primary responsibility. It's a little bit out of their wheelhouse. And so, however, the work that they do often supports and intersects with the workforce ecosystem in a number of different ways. For example, some state energy offices have conducted or overseen the development of state-level energy job assessments. Some have informed, developed, or provided funding for energy workforce training programs. Many are coordinating and partnering with other state agencies like state workforce agencies, as well as worker serving organizations. And state energy offices can also build in things like job quality, local hire, and other preferences into state clean energy spending and procurements. And then finally, some state energy offices are investing in clean energy entrepreneurship and STEM education. Next slide. There we go. So with the passage of the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act and the Inflation Reduction Act, there are several key workforce-related federal funding opportunities that many state energy offices are either administering or involved in or just tracking generally. And I think it's helpful to think of these in 4 categories. So the first being workforce development focused funding. That can include the training for residential energy contractors, or TREC, both formula and competitive, as well as the energy auditor training program. And then the second bucket is flexible funding that state energy offices could use for workforce development. So for example, the US State Energy Program, which every state and territory energy office receives formula funding through, could be used for workforce development initiatives. EPA's Solar for All program, which many state energy offices are going to administer, has a workforce development component. And then several funding opportunities have significant workforce implications. So, for example, the Home Energy Rebates Program, which is about $9 billion going to state and territory energy offices for home energy efficiency and electrification upgrades, is definitely going to contribute to a lot of job growth in the residential energy sector. And then finally, there are several workforce provisions or implications within the tax incentives. And so state governments can take advantage of that through direct pay or by raising awareness among businesses and nonprofits in their states. Next slide. And finally, I just wanted to share a few resources on the work that NASEO has been doing in the workforce space. Feel free to look at those or reach out to myself or any of my other NASEO colleagues working on workforce. And I think now I will turn it over to our first state speaker, which is who's Cam Black, the Managing Director for the Jobs and Outreach Branch with the Hawaii State Energy Office. Take it away, Cam.
Thanks, Grace, and thanks to NASEO and IREC and the partnership for bringing us together here today to learn from one another on our workforce development initiatives. As Grace mentioned, I'm Cameron Black. I work in the Hawaii State Energy Office. Next slide, please. I was asked to touch a little bit on the interconnection between our community outreach and workforce development initiatives here in Hawaii because they are so intertwined. And recognizing that last summer, our leadership at the Hawaii Energy Office created a brand new branch combining the two called the Jobs and Outreach Branch. And as you can see, we have some dedicated resources to these important initiatives that can really help boost our people at a grassroots level, which is what we're really looking to do. And this is important for other energy offices and other folks even looking at other grants because we kind of have a dedicated personnel now, our equity coordinator who can review the community benefits plans and Justice 40 requirements for all of the grant applications nowadays. So having that dedicated staff to consistently review all of those plans that are submitted for the entire office's grant applications helps to provide a little bit of consistency in our community benefits plan, as well as a view of all of the commitments that we're making through these grant applications. So I can't emphasize that enough and the value that that's had. In addition, on the flip side, looking at the left side, having a dedicated grants and procurement personnel has been such a necessity for our office to go after all these federal grants that Grace listed. Next slide, please. The formatting is a little weird on these slides. However, this shows you a little bit of background on Hawaii. We don't get any of our current fuel from the United States. You can see how it shifted from 2009 to 2020, which we had a lot from Russia, to 2024, which now it's Libya and Argentina is where we get our 2 primary sources of oil. So the urgency from not only a global, but local and regional and energy security standpoint is high for Hawaii. We have no sources of indigenous fossil fuels. We have to bring everything in. When we were burning coal, that came from the majority from Australia and Indonesia. So all the more important why our renewable energy push is so necessary and urgent. Next slide, please. We are making pretty good progress statewide. Here's we're at about 35% renewable energy penetration. We are blessed to have renewable energy generation types of all kinds, from geothermal to hydro to solar, wind, even waste energy. We have a waste energy incinerator plant on Oahu. So that is the good thing. We also have different islanded grids, as you may know, for those of you who have been out here. Our islanded grids are not interconnected, which poses some unique challenges and opportunities. Next slide, please. As I touched on, increasing community engagement has really been a focus of everybody in Hawaii recently. And examples of that include an energy equity and justice docket that our local PUC stood up recently in 2022 to dive into those 5 issues. New large renewable energy projects in Hawaii under Hawaiian Electric Service territories now are required to have a community benefits program in place. And you can see what the minimum is. And there's also a preference because there's a competitive bidding selection process with our utilities. For those projects that have 80% labor at prevailing wages, those get preferential points from a grading standpoint. Finally, there's a lot of community-led planning efforts. And because, like I mentioned, Hawaii has a lot of kind of, not going to say micro communities, but a lot of diverse communities with diverse needs. Communities have taken it upon themselves to kind of plan what they want their energy systems to look like. And we're seeing a lot of momentum in this area, and we're helping a lot of them as other utilities and other entities, such as federal entities and labs, national labs that are coming to Hawaii. Next slide, please. A lot of our outreach, some of you may have heard of our Clean Energy Wayfinders program, and that's a youth corps, job corps type of program where we place individuals throughout the state of Hawaii. While they're with us, they learn professional development. We're focused on training them to do outreach as well as enter the professional field. But in addition, they're on the field out there in Hawaii, and having community presence is so important when you're representing the government, so communities feel comfortable at the farmers markets, at the community events. Just being there is a real benefit to help share information on workforce and education opportunities. Next slide, please. Here's where they're placed throughout the state. Again, a nice map of Hawaii. We have 6 primary islands that we are focused on for energy. There are 8 main Hawaii islands, but 6 of them have the inhabited with the electrical grids. Next slide, please. Workforce development starts at a young age, as you all know. We developed some curriculum for our teachers to consider inputting in their own curriculum, starting from K through 12. There's a link to that curriculum there. And we worked in concert with the local economic development board to develop that curriculum. So teachers at their option can start again inserting, this is what energy is 101. This is how Hawaii gets its energy. This is how to create a solar farm, or this is how to create solar energy. This is how electric vehicle works, that kind of thing. In addition, the Hawaii Department of Education has taken it upon itself to establish an energy pathway as part of its career and technical education program. And we are an advisor on the energy pathway. And you can see it starts with alternative fuels, foundations of energy, power grid technology, and renewable energy. And finally, this is a picture. I'm sorry, these slides are messed up here, but we've been doing a lot of engagement in the last year or two with our public schools to educate kids on our local energy situation, where our energy comes from, how it's delivered, and the diversity of careers in the energy field, as you all know. Next slide, please. One of the big things we've been doing earlier this year, and this is partnership started with Department of Energy funding, is these advanced visualization tools where we can show the kids and the educators and all community members. Just in fact, some of these pictures on the right is when we had NASEO in town a few weeks ago, to again communicate, this is what our energy looks like now and the different mixes. If we have a lot of onshore solar, what would that mean for our other energy mixes, for example, to help us really try to identify our pathway to 100% in the next 20 years or so, which is our goal. Next slide, please. So getting to the part I think we wanted to talk about here finally, we are a Good Jobs Hawaii recipient. through the University of Hawaii Community Colleges. So that's been the foundation of our workforce development. And from Good Jobs Hawaii, which was funded by US EDA, some of you out there may be participating or have gotten that yourselves. We've created a clean energy sector partnership, and that is really the central engine of our workforce development now, led by the Energy Office. And that was established last May, and it's a big coalition of anybody we can think of who would be involved in energy jobs in Hawaii. Large employers, those are critical because it's energy sector. It starts with large employers, understanding their needs. Who are they trying to hire? What skills are they looking for? And this forum allows us to gather that information and communicate it to the educators so they can help develop the training programs that are in response to the in-demand jobs that employers are looking for now. Grace mentioned TREC. We are also formulating our TREC plan. As you all know, who've gone for federal grants recently with the Justice 40 requirements there, that's where that community engagement is so important. How do you identify the Justice 40 communities that you want to target? And how do you cater your training programs and wraparound services and all the other things to really provide meaningful trainings that can result in a job to these communities? We also applied for the Energy Auditor Training Grant and the TREC Competitive. And the last one below is Apprenticeships Building America, which is a federal Department of Labor grant. And we are partnering with our state Department of Labor and Industrial Relations on that grant application. So the last three are pending applications. And we'll be looking forward to hearing from those grantees. Next slide, please. This is from U.S. Department of Energy. Starting with the data is kind of one of our founding principles as well. What is the data showing us? They have a 50-state review in this particular report, at which you can access the link below. So it's a very valuable report. It's the most comprehensive energy jobs report we've seen for the state of Hawaii. Maybe the same for other states. Next slide, please. We did our own informal survey back in 2020 from a group of small solar plus battery developers in Hawaii. And this, well, shoot, I don't know if you can see the darkest one, but this is the cascading number. The numbers are blanked out, but the percentage of jobs that are required for a utility solar plus battery project here in Hawaii. And you can see the top, the laborer, electrician, heavy equipment operator, and then design and engineering and technician are the top 5. So this really helps us focus our attention on where the jobs are and the training needs are the most. On a side note, we also queried these developers on how many of these jobs were from Hawaii and how many of them they had to import to help further focus. And as you can imagine, the jobs that can be done remotely were the ones that tended to be most imported. Next slide, please. Okay, getting down to the end here. It's seeking the advice from our clean energy sector partnership on where we should focus our efforts. Early exposure to jobs in the sector was something that was of real interest to our local industry here. And how can we prepare this next generation or the generation that's about to enter the workforce for jobs in the industry? Next slide, please. Based on that input, we created 3 priority work groups within the Clean Energy Sector Partnership that are focused on those 3 categories, as you can see below: career readiness, prepping the students and pre-apprenticeships, as well as apprenticeships and training, including upskilling of our current workforce. Because the current workforce is the workforce that keeps the lights on, the energy flowing now. We want to make sure that they're trained to adapt to whatever kind of technologies we anticipate with our modernization of our electrical grid. So definitely making sure that we carry our current workforce along and progress their skills and abilities as well. Last slide, please. This is a list of some of the trainings that are currently being developed now under Good Jobs Hawaii and through the Clean Energy Sector Partnership to give you folks an idea of, again, what's kind of on the front burner right now as far as developing new trainings under these programs. And you can see it varies. So you've got some electric vehicle, you got efficiency, You've got preparing our heavy-duty line people for work in the industry. They're so critical and so important that they're well skilled. And that is the last slide, I believe. Yep. Thank you very much. I will start responding to questions in the chat.
All right, thank you, Cam. I think we're ready.
Thanks, Adele.
Section. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Adele Ferranti. I'm the Director of Workforce Development and Training at NYSERDA, the New York State Energy Research and Development Authority, which is effectively New York State's energy office. I have been working on workforce training here at NYSERDA since about the year 2000. So we've been at this for 20 years, and I'm here to share some of our experiences and best practices. Next slide, please. We currently have a 10 to 12 year budget of about $180 million to support workforce development and training across the clean energy economy. We're working in just about every clean energy sector, whether it's energy efficiency, building science, renewables, offshore wind, including offshore wind. If you think about that funding and the time period we're working under, we have to commit around 12 to 15, $16 million a year and invest in our training providers across the state. And that includes unions, technical high schools, community colleges, manufacturers, large HVAC companies that have their own training programs. We work with a wide variety of partners. And our Climate Act mandate requires that no less than 35%, with a goal of 40%, of all our climate action benefits will go towards New York's disadvantaged communities. And our goal for our workforce program is that approximately 50% of our benefits support people from disadvantaged communities or priority populations when we're training new workers for the workforce. Next click, please. We can go through, there we go, thank you. So, oops, back one. I just wanted to get the other list on there. Our funds, as Cam also mentioned, we're trying to prepare new workers for clean energy jobs. We call that our career pathways initiatives, again, with the priority for people with barriers to employment. We're looking to advance the skills of existing workers so they're best prepared to work in the clean energy economy. And at the same time, while we're building up training infrastructure to support new and existing workers, we're supporting clean energy businesses that are hiring and training new workers. Again, we focus on clean energy businesses, helping them hire and train people on the job seekers and students. We have some activities in career awareness, training providers, community-based organizations, and we have one program dedicated to building owners and property managers called our Building Operations and Maintenance Program, where we're working with large portfolios and building owners to train their staff. Next slide, please. At any given time, we probably have 6 to 8 funding opportunities on the street. And I'm going to share with you some of our key funding opportunities to give you a flavor of some of our approaches to investing in clean energy training. Our ponds or program opportunity notices, they're solicitations. Pond 3981, this first pond I'll talk about, is really targeting most energy efficiency and clean energy technology training, with the exception of offshore wind, which I'll talk about next. We're really looking at technical training, hands-on training, job placement for new workers, as well as wraparound services for people with barriers to employment and training. As I mentioned, the technology focus areas are pretty broad, anything from energy efficiency, EV charging infrastructure, large-scale renewables, building electrification. And our program will fund projects in 2 different categories. Again, upskilling, reskilling for existing workers, and training for new workers in our separate category, where we have a preference for projects that can train up to 100% from disadvantaged communities with a higher cost share from NYSERDA, and again, a minimum of 50% from DACs. We also require placement in paid internships, apprenticeship, or full-time jobs or advanced formal training for our projects that are focusing on new workers. We want those workers to land somewhere after training. We don't want to just fall off the map and hope they end up with a job or an internship. That's a requirement that at least 80% of those individuals are placed somewhere. Of course, placement in a job is the gold standard. So far, we've awarded $13.6 million with over 50 projects funded to date. And through those projects, we're working on a goal of, for just those projects alone, over 15,000 to be trained. So again, that's one example of a program to build up the training infrastructure in New York. Next slide, please. Another program opportunity I want to talk about, I mentioned it, it's offshore wind. So this is dedicated towards offshore wind training exclusively. It's very similar to the previous funding opportunity in the way it's set up. We are looking at workforce gaps in the offshore wind training area, and that ranges from electricians to laborers to folks that are doing O&M on large-scale wind projects, inspectors, construction laborers. Again, we focus on upskilling or reskilling or training for new workers with some of the same requirements I mentioned earlier. So far, we have funded 4 projects to date to the tune of about $3 million, and those projects will train about 550 individuals. And when I talk about these training numbers, these are directly trained through these projects. Many of these projects, ideally all of them, will be sustainable and will continue training people in the future after our contracts are completed. Next slide, please. As we build up the training infrastructure, we really saw a gap in terms of how we could do more work with our labor organizations in New York State, with unions and registered pre-apprenticeship programs. We're really, again, focusing on building electrification and energy efficiency in this program, renewable energy generation, interconnection, transmission, distribution, storage, and EV charging infrastructure, installation, and repair. We're working with labor organizations, labor management committees, active registered apprenticeship programs, and direct entry pre-apprenticeship programs. We know that the unions are going to be a key partner in building out our clean energy economy. And we have this dedicated program that was just launched at the beginning of this year with a total of $45 million committed over a 3-year period. So we hope to fund about $15 million in projects each year. And we just scored and approved negotiations for our first handful of projects. And I'll be excited to share information on those once we contract those new projects. Next slide, please. So I mentioned we're working to build up that training infrastructure, but at the same time, we're supporting businesses as they bring on new workers, introduce new entrants into the clean energy workforce through internships or fellowships. And we have these 3 offerings. One is the traditional on-the-job training program where we provide a wage subsidy for new workers to get trained on the job. This is, of course, to help them get the skills they need to be at full productivity as quickly as possible. And it's traditionally in areas of the economy where businesses are taking on some risk hiring new workers because they may not be sure of the market demand. For example, heat pumps. HVAC companies, there's certainly demand for heat pumps, but as we're building up that demand, we want to help offset the risk of hiring those new workers. On average, our on-the-job training subsidy is around $8,000 a worker, and there is no cap for companies that hire from disadvantaged communities or priority populations. There's no cap in the total award NYSERDA will give them for on-the-job training. Internships, I'm sure you're all very familiar with internships. We have wage subsidies for interns that range from 75 to 90% of the cost for those interns, depending on company size. Our typical intern wage subsidy is about $4,000 or $5,000. And again, we're trying to introduce new individuals to clean energy jobs. And another neat program we have is a 12-month climate justice or clean energy fellowship. We pay $40,000 for a fellow for 12 months. At least $37,000 has to go to their salary, another $3,000 for wraparound services. Employers can and do pay more, and it's a great way to bring on new entrants in the workforce in a 12-month job opportunity. The really cool thing about what we're doing here is companies can combine all these offerings. You could hire an intern for 6 months. They may work out really well. You could then hire them as a fellow, combining these incentives, or hire them full time under the on-the-job training program. So when you think about combining these incentives, it could be 4,000 or 5,000 for an intern, another 8,000 for on-the-job training, and up to 40,000 for a fellow. So significant opportunity to bring new workers on and retain them. Next slide, please. Just a glimpse at some of our training partners. Again, it's everything from unions to community-based organizations, two-year universities, four-year universities, technical high schools. So we're working with, at any given time, probably 50, 60 training partners, and a lot of them have subcontractors or additional partners that help bring these projects to completion. So we have an exciting group of partners we're working with. Next slide. I just want to give you a couple of examples, and you can click through this so we can see the full slide. Stacks and Jewels is a great organization we're working with in New York City, a non-for-profit organization that trains New York City high school students in advanced lighting controls, heat pumps, building integration, and professional soft skills training, all to get them into family-sustaining careers with good wages. They have a tremendous number of partners throughout the city, which makes this project so successful. They have technical training that they provide, career exploration assistance, hands-on learning, mentorship, and they help provide credentials. This was through 2021. This project has been completed since then. They served 120 New York City youths. They had industry recognized certificates that those individuals earned, almost 100 paid internships, and at the time of this summary in 2021, 5 were placed in full-time jobs, and I expect that number certainly went up. Next slide, please. Non-traditional employment for women, another great example of a registered pre-apprenticeship program that works very closely with unions and other entities in New York City that take on the workers that come out of this pre-apprenticeship program. I think there's one more click through here. They prepare and train women in careers in skilled construction, utility, and maintenance trades, helping them reach economic independence. They teach environmental literacy, sustainability, efficiency in construction, and we help them build in more clean energy training into their pre-apprenticeship program. They've got partners, as I mentioned, such as Con Ed, National Grid, some of our key utilities here in New York State, large property management companies, the MTA. In this project alone, working with new or non-traditional employment for women, 76 individuals were trained, and 60 of those came from priority populations. They conducted, interviewed, had paid internships, and placed women into full-time jobs. Next slide, please. I think we have another example or two I want to go over quickly. This example is in offshore wind, so it's an exciting opportunity for us to work with our Capital Region BOCES, or Technical High School. They're providing training for 90 individuals from disadvantaged communities to work in the offshore wind sector. They're teaching them welding, electrical skills, building trade skills. They have exposure to offshore wind topics, including wind turbine data collection analysis, renewable energy systems, wind technology equipment, etc. They're working with local employment partners here that are working in our Port of Albany and working towards manufacturing wind turbines right here in Albany. So it's an exciting opportunity to train and place these people from disadvantaged communities in offshore wind jobs. Next slide. All right, I think I was able to get that in under time. A lot to cover, a lot more on our website. Great project examples, great list of our partners. So happy to take any questions, and thank you.
Okay. Well, thanks, Adele. That was great. And Cam, you as well. Definitely ahead of us where we are with Tennessee, but thank you for the opportunity to share the Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation Office of Energy Programs, or TDEC OEP, as we call ourselves, our workforce development efforts. My name is Nola Hastings. I've been with TDEC OEP about a year and a half, but it's an exciting time to be here. I'm getting to work on a number of the federal funding initiatives that Grace and Cam mentioned. and assisting the state in developing a residential energy efficiency workforce development program. If you know anything about Tennessee, we've got a lot of EV jobs as well, but I'll focus today on residential EE. Next slide, please. So OEP serves as the governor-designated state energy office for the state of Tennessee. OEP provides education, outreach, technical assistance, and/or funding and financing opportunities for energy efficiency, energy management, renewable energy, energy security planning, preparedness and response, grid resilience, and energy and transportation. And through its activities, OEP promotes the efficient, effective use of energy to enhance the environmental and economic health of the state. Next slide, please. So, as you heard from the previous speakers, we, like many other states, have a multitude of funding opportunities that are resulting from the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act and the Inflation Reduction Act. Through IIJA, Tennessee has funding for the State Energy Program, Grid Resilience, Revolving Loan Fund Program, the Energy Efficiency and Conservation Block Grant Program, the National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Program, and we have also applied for competitive funding for the Energy Auditor Training Program. And under the IRA, we are currently working on our applications for the home energy rebate programs. We anticipate submitting these applications to DOE this quarter. We also applied for the TREC formula funding and competitive grant. We intend to apply for that. And the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund, Tennessee received an award of $156 million for Solar for All, and we have a pending application for the Climate Pollution Reduction Grant. Next slide, please. So Tennessee, the Office of Energy Programs is new to workforce development. We do not have a history in this space. But in response to the IRA Training for Residential Energy Contractors grant, which is a companion grant to the IRA Home Energy Rebates program, we started researching what jobs would be needed to implement the rebates program. And we conducted a jobs gap analysis to start to understand what jobs are available in the state and try to understand what the projected demand will be. Grace mentioned that wasn't necessarily an easy task. We've got some great partners in the state. The Tennessee Department of Labor and Workforce Development pulled data for us about current job openings in the state for the identified occupations that would be needed to implement the home energy rebate programs. We also gathered data from current employment reports. We conducted phone calls with nonprofits and educational institutions that we knew of at the time that were working in this space. And through this, we were able to identify potential partners. Because the Tennessee Valley Authority, or TVA, provides all power generation and transmission in the state of Tennessee, and it has existing residential energy efficiency programs that includes an established contractor network, or QCN. They were an obvious partner. TDEC OEP leveraged TVA's existing QCN to distribute a contractor survey, trying to determine the need for workers and the skill sets that they would be looking for in residential energy efficiency, and to understand some of the challenges that they have in hiring folks. And finally, because TDEC has several grant programs that will have a workforce component, we convened a workforce advisory committee to help guide our workforce efforts. This group is comprised of subject matter experts in industry and education, and it'll support TDEC in considering workforce challenges and opportunities that result from energy and climate investment in Tennessee through the IIJA and the IRA. Next slide. So if you could go to the next slide, please. So we found that throughout Tennessee, and this is probably likely in other states as well, but there are a lot of nonprofits with really excellent programs that are training a clean energy workforce. We will continue to survey and leverage the existing programs where feasible, with an emphasis on underrepresented and disadvantaged communities. Developing a clean energy workforce for Tennessee includes occupations such as weatherization, energy auditing, HVAC, plumbers, electricians, solar installers, that includes battery storage, and EV manufacturing and infrastructure. One goal of our workforce development program is to upskill existing workers, and particularly those in the QCN. TVA and their third-party implementer who manages the QCN will help us do this. They'll work with contractors and their employees to just kind of meet them where they are, determine their goals, provide additional training and certifications to ensure that they continue on a path of upward mobility in their industry. Additionally, we will develop programs through the Tennessee Board of Regents, who oversees the Colleges of Applied Technology, or TCATs, and community colleges to develop a pipeline of new workers that could either feed into TVA's QCN or fill other roles. But with the QCN, they could potentially obtain jobs with current contractors, or we also want to look at providing them the training that they would need if they're interested in starting their own business. And then training on soft skills will be an important focus for TDEC's workforce development program. The contractor survey that we did revealed the need for workers to be trained to interact with customers in their homes, in addition to just performing the actual work. So, one of the things we heard was that people need to know how to promote energy efficiency, and particularly we're going to lean on these contractors to promote the rebate programs. So we'll be doing some training to help them be successful at that. And then recognizing the difficulty for contractors to take time off for additional certification and testing, we'll work to provide stipends to allow contractors and their employees to access the additional training that they may be interested in. And when possible, we'll develop programs that offer pre- and registered apprenticeships, on-the-job training, and job placement assistance. And of course, we intend to design programs for delivery in underserved communities, providing assistance with tool purchases and stipends and other wraparound services. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, TVA, they're a federal corporation and they provide electricity to almost all of Tennessee through 153 local power companies. They're serving 10 million people in Tennessee and parts of 6 surrounding states. And to implement new programs like the home energy rebate programs, TDEC OEP will exclusively utilize the services of TVA's QCN. So they're really important to our efforts with the home rebate program. The QCN was developed by TVA to provide service to their existing residential services energy efficiency programs. There are over 200 Tennessee contractors that are currently enrolled in the QCN, but we recognize that to implement the various programs that will be coming online, in the next few years, we're going to need to increase the number of contractors that are in the QCN, particularly in rural areas of the state. And we want to increase the percentage of contractors from underrepresented groups. Any contractor that's been in business at least 1 year, is licensed, insured, and willing to take training on TVA's quality guidelines can join the QCN. So, anybody's welcome to join and help implement these programs. For contractors, the benefit of joining will be exclusive access to participating in these upcoming programs and access to training for technical and soft skills. Next slide, please. So in addition to TVA and the QCN as a major partner, we will also work with state agencies, the Tennessee Department of Labor and Workforce Development, Tennessee Board of Regents are going to be critical to our success, since this really is their wheelhouse and not ours. So we'll lean on them pretty strongly to help us roll out these programs. We'll also work with the Tennessee Office of Reentry, the American Job Centers, and others. We're definitely going to strive to partner with the nonprofits who are already working in this space to support their programs, to develop a pipeline of qualified workers. We will also do that through programs that are existing in the Tennessee Colleges of Applied Technology and the community colleges that have already developed programs in clean energy. And then for solar, we'll definitely be working with the Tennessee Solar Energy Industries Association, that they will be able to help us determine the training and certifications that will be needed for the Solar for All program. Next slide, please. So like I'm sure many other states, Tennessee is undergoing a great deal of development. And as such, the need for many of the construction trades, which, my understanding is they also, there's an overlap between that and clean energy occupations. These fields are expected to experience considerable growth in Tennessee through 2030. So you can see the jobs listed here: construction managers, electricians, HVAC mechanics and installers, installation workers, plumbers, and weatherization. All of these categories have a higher projected job growth in Tennessee than the national rate. And the weatherization jobs are expected to grow more than 8 times the national rate. Grace mentioned it was difficult to get information on some of these jobs, but we found that energy auditors were particularly hard to get numbers on. And so we didn't have a good understanding of how many exist currently in Tennessee and what the, how many we will need. And it was interesting because what we found is that it's saying that energy auditors is projected to be stagnant. And we know that can't be an accurate statement because, many of these programs, particularly the home energy rebate programs, requires an energy audit. So we anticipate there's going to be, a need to train more energy auditors. Next slide, please. So kind of staying in the same vein, this slide shows data from the 2022 National Renewable Energy Labs State Level Employment Projections Report, indicating the number of solar energy jobs in Tennessee in 2020 was just over 4,200, and then high and low projections for these jobs in 2025 and 2030 range anywhere from 5,500 to over 10,000 to meet the needs. And then for energy efficiency jobs in 2020, it was reported they're around 1,700. And then the projected growth in 2025 could be up to 4,300 and then up to 7,600 in 2030. Next slide, please. So what are our next steps? OEP will continue to coordinate with our partners to define and understand the needs of employers in clean energy. We will further inventory existing training programs to understand, what all is out there and what gaps might exist. We recognize that there may be a lack of knowledge or understanding about clean energy jobs, so we want to work with partners to raise awareness of these career opportunities. We want to inform employers about the training programs that are being offered and communicate with the newly trained employees to help facilitate their transition into the workforce. As Adele mentioned, we don't want to train people and then not, lead them to jobs. We will work with the Department of Labor and the Board of Regents and employers who are willing to host pre- and registered apprenticeships programs. and then coordinate with nonprofit partners who work with justice-involved individuals, provide wraparound services and soft skills training, and we will continuously monitor and collect feedback to modify training as needed. And we also plan to add a staff position that will be dedicated to workforce development to ensure that we can build out and provide the programs that are necessary to meet these projected clean jobs demands. The next slide, I think, is the last slide. So that does it for me. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so very much. It's a new era, isn't it?
Mm.
Many of us have been through 3 or 4 rounds of it's going to happen now, but this time it's really happening. So exciting to see all of these presentations, to see the kind of support for the systemic change that we need to really get to an inclusive, energy efficient, and clean energy future. We've got a number of questions. I'm going to ask that you put your questions into the Q&A area, not into the chat, so that way I can pull from there. There is one in the chat that I'm going to just start with, though, so it doesn't get lost. And that is, can you, anybody here who wants to, speak to the wraparound services that are often underfunded, right? And how do we provide them consistently? And what other wraparound services are you providing other than the ones that have already been mentioned? How do you handle childcare? How do you handle transportation, etc.? So who would like to go first?
So I'm happy to say what little I know about this, because as I mentioned, we are really just getting started with, understanding all of this, but we were able to identify partners that already offer those services. So we have, Goodwill, the American Job Centers, and they've all expressed interest in helping provide those services, even purchasing tools. New workers, I understand it can cost anywhere between $7,000 and $8,000 to get all the tools you need to get out there in the field. So in addition to transportation, childcare, meals, we'll be looking at providing tools for newly trained workers.
Anybody else want to add to that?
Yeah, just along those lines, we have supported wraparound services and professional development through our various programs, and some of the wraparound services, similar that was just mentioned, could be anything from transportation, childcare, mental health assistance, certainly tools, but even we've helped people take driver's ed courses. In one project, we were asked to help pay some of the parking fines of individuals being trained because they could not get their licenses and they had been suspended. We look to really just fill gaps where other social service programs can't meet the need, and we hope to be the gap filler for people with barriers to employment and training.
That's excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Adele. That's a great anecdote or example. And I wanted to back up what Nola said and the importance of partnering with some of these community organizations who already have the trust of some of our trainees, and the importance of being community specific in many senses when you're talking about wraparound services. So that's kind of the model that we're also looking at. But appreciate thinking outside of the box what some of these services could actually entail, because these are the real struggles that they're going through out there. I deeply apologize. I do need to drop off, but I implore everybody to call or email us if you have any questions. And Nola and Adele, I really appreciated the information you guys provided.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much. And Cam, did you put your email into the chat?
I'll do that right now along with my phone number. Thanks, Deb. And thanks,
That would be great. Okay, I want to attach that question to another one, which is when I was running the Detroit Green Skills Alliance, we found that some of the nonprofits created their training programs, then the community colleges creating their training programs, and they didn't connect together. So you didn't end up with the stackable credentials. And if the job didn't work out of the nonprofit, then we would get phone calls of like, what do we do now? And because we couldn't give credit for what the nonprofits had done, it was a glitch, right? So I'm just wondering, do you have built into your funding programs from the state energy offices, or have you done it individually in your states, a way to make sure that there's a coordination between the trainings that are offered in these different organizations and stackable credentials?
Yeah, I'll jump in, Deb. Great question. We certainly try to give preference to programs that result in stackable credentials. We have had some partners like Hudson Valley Community College partnering with local CBOs to develop training programs with stackable credentials. Everything we do is driven by business demand, market demand. So if an employer says, you know, we need X, Y, and Z, and we're just mostly interested in this credential or that credential or these skills, we're flexible in that way. But you're absolutely right. We are trying to foster more collaboration through these partnerships we're funding in our portfolio.
Yep. Okay, anybody else want to respond to that? Thanks, Adele.
I think for us, again, you know, being new to the workforce party, we will, and I took a note because that's something that I will talk to our Tennessee Department of Labor and Workforce Development to see what they're currently doing. But I know there's seemingly a good connection between them and the Tennessee Board of Regents, who are all working in this space currently.
Great, thank you very much. I also wanted to ask, there's a follow-up question in here about retention. That, you know, we've got all these great programs to train people, to get them in with the employers, but then what about retention? And are you funding retention programs, welcoming culture? Do you have resources on how to make sure there's the retention of the new workers? Okay, everybody's quiet. We have found this to be a bit of a gap. Jenny, some of the other people who are here today, listen up, right? For what we may need to support going forward in order to make this whole pipeline work. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Deb, I was just giving Nola a chance to jump in first. We see job retention being a big issue also in our on-the-job training program. For a short time, we were up to 70% job retention, which was pretty consistent with what our New York State Department of Labor saw. Of course, COVID hit. Things changed dramatically after COVID, and our retention rates dropped significantly. And if you think about our on-the-job training model, those incentives, again, which could average $8,000 to $10,000 per worker, depending on the technology or worker, they go to the employer. The employer can reinvest that in the worker by providing professional development opportunities, by providing them with some of the support they may need while they're on the job, and actually, you know, to support some of those needs. So we would love to see those on-the-job training dollars reinvested into the employee, but we don't have much control over it. I think some of the savvy employers are doing that because once you recruit and train someone, you don't want to lose them. It's too expensive to recruit, train, and onboard them.
So you brought up another question, which is related to that answer, but does anybody else want to respond to that before I move on?
Yeah, I was just going to say quickly, this is a topic and an area of interest for many states involved in NASEO's Energy Equity Committee, and thinking through how do we make these jobs and work sites more inclusive and supportive, especially as we're trying to get a more diverse workforce. And I think similarly, we've been kind of reaching for best practices and still trying to figure out what the state's role is in that space. But recently had a good conversation with some folks from Philadelphia and Chicago working on an initiative called Women in Non-Traditional Careers, and also kind of thinking through what the contractor role is specifically in the residential and energy efficiency space in terms of best practices and maybe incentives for high road employers to support their employees and provide those professional development opportunities.
That sounds great. Thank you. And also in our soft skills training to let our workers know that it's okay to say, I've got to take grandpa to the doctors. I'm the only one who can. So I won't be able to come, instead of just not showing up and not knowing necessarily how to handle it, right? So part of that's got to be built into the soft skills training. So thanks for thinking all of that through, because those are key pieces, right? You mentioned recruitment. What challenges or opportunities do you see related to recruitment? Are there effective strategies you've seen for raising awareness of careers in the energy sector and then getting those people to come in as students and eventually employees?
So in preparing for this webinar, I reached out to, as I mentioned, some of the partners that we'll be working with. One theme I heard over and over was, going into high schools and trying to get students when they're young and they're not sure what they want to do, if they're not, heading towards a 4-year degree, introducing them to the jobs that are available, ensuring that those jobs are in their neighborhoods or in their region, so that they can be close to family, that they're not trained in something that they have to move to get a job in. So I saw that they're doing a lot of recruiting at high schools. One of the programs that we proposed for the TREC grant has a dual enrollment component. So students are taking courses, while they're in high school at the community college to be trained for some of these trades.
Yeah, and Deb, just, to follow up, I mean, that's why I think our internship program is important, to really introduce new entrants into the workforce to what a clean energy job is. And the fellowship program, again, that's a 12-month engagement. We last 2 years ago invested into an amazing career awareness program called Road Trip Nation. And if you're not familiar with Road Trip Nation, you have to Google it. It was an incredible opportunity for us to go around the state with 3 young adults who were selected through a competition to go interview people in clean energy jobs, to learn about their jobs, what they do, how they got there, what they love about what they do. It resulted in a PBS documentary, which was shown hundreds of times across the United States. There is a portal where people can go and learn about these jobs. They have access to all the jobs in the Road Trip Nation database. And it was a way for us to then partner with high schools and different community-based organizations to do a series of showings of the Road Trip Nation documentary across the state to build more awareness about what a clean energy career is. And it was everything from a electric helicopter manufacturer in Plattsburgh, New York, to an HVAC contractor, to a green building architect, to a sustainability coordinator in Ithaca, New York. So please check it out on NYSERDA's website. But the Road Trip Nation documentary was an amazing tool that we hope to leverage moving forward.
The link is in the chat.
No, I'll drop it in.
And well, the documentary link is in there. So
thank you.
So as always, for many decades, I'm inspired by what Adele's been doing, right? We've been doing this for a long time. And so just so you know, next month for the webinar for this series and the National Clean Energy Workforce Alliance, we will be presenting to all of you a free toolkit that we have compiled after doing pilots, working with national engagement partners, advisory committees, and all sorts of employers and educators. It's got free materials that you can use to recruit. You can recruit to get students into your programs. You can recruit to get employees into your companies. We've really worked to make it easy for you. And we list Road Trip Nation as one of the great resources that you can use. But please do come next month to the third Thursday and hear about this recruitment toolkit that we've created as a gift for you, because we saw it as a high need. Anything else we want to say about recruitment before we move on? Okay. I also want to thank the U.S. government for recognizing the need to do some work in the recruitment area and supporting this work. So I'm really excited about telling you more about it next month. Right. Rachel asked, how do we get the curriculum for training? For example, electrician, and is the curriculum uniform across states? Who wants to tackle that one first?
We really have been relying on partners to figure out what their curriculum gaps and needs are. And as you know, every program is different, right? What the IBEW needs for their electrician training over a 5-year apprenticeship program is going to be much different from what a community college might be teaching to their 2-year electric and construction and maintenance students. So every program is different. We are not building standardized curriculum and offering that to others. NYSERDA used to be in that business with the Building Performance Institute curriculum way back when. And quite honestly, it was hard to keep up with curriculum modifications and changes and who was adapting it for what purposes. So we've kind of let the market do what they need to. We always do have the rights to our curriculum, but if someone's using it and they have a business model to continue using that, we really try not to interfere. But we would certainly encourage you to reach out to our partners. Many of them will share their training curriculum.
Yeah, and if it's federally funded, they need to share, right? Because those were our tax dollars. Other ideas about curricula?
I think our program is a little bit unique in that we will be using the QCN that TVA has, and they'll be directing or providing, the various levels of training. We did list, certain BPI courses and things like that. But I think, we'll rely on TVA and the QCN and the, TBR to, work together in terms of talking about what training or curriculum is most relevant.
I want to mention that the Building Science Education Center has all sorts of free curricula, and anybody can go there. It's a PNNL, the Pacific Northwest National Lab, has been supporting that work. There's also DOE recognized energy curricula that you can, I wish I knew the links off the top of my head, but maybe somebody who's on, I see a few of you who are attending who would know those links. You can put them right into the chat. If not, I'll bring them next month. I know that the International Renewable Energy Association has built a K-12 curricula on renewable energies that's free. There you go. Thank you, Jenny. So there's the Building Science Education Center work, and you can find all sorts of open source curricula there. We also compiled for the National Clean Energy Workforce Alliance a whole list of open source curricula. I also just want to let you know that we did another project that was supported by the federal government, yay, where we went to the top textbooks, the best-selling textbooks in these areas, and we put the curricula in. And then there's also companies that certify the education programs like HVAC Excellence, like NSER, NCCER, certifications of technicians like NATE, and of course you keep hearing BPI, Building Performance Institute. So there is a lot out there that you can access, and we'll provide more next month if it's not already here. And we've got a LinkedIn group through the National Clean Energy Workforce Alliance that Cynthia just put into the chat. Anything else on curricula that you all want to add? Okay, then let's go to Peter's question. Is there research on wage reimbursement structures and rates for work-based learning programs?
I'm not aware of any research, but I'm sure it's out there. If you think about programs funded by WIOA, some of those are on-the-job training programs.
Yeah, I know UC Berkeley has done research about how do you create high-quality jobs. Look up Google Scholar, and just put those things in. There's a lot of stuff. I work with 19 publishing companies. I meet with them every Tuesday morning. They have all sorts of open source where you get the whole journal article for free, not just the abstract. Anybody else have a response to that one? Nola, somebody would like you to share your link to your jobs gap analysis in the chat, if you could do that. And then they also had a question for you for the certification aspect mentioned. Has there been any research to see if other organizations have pursued this, like national general guidelines for certification with partner organizations?
Can you repeat the second part of the question?
Yeah, have you seen anything around national general guidelines for certification with partner organizations?
Not sure I understand the question, but in terms of the job training that we identified for our grant programs, they're all included in that Building Science Education Center. They have to meet those requirements.
Okay, great. Anything else on that?
No.
Okay. Ryan asked this. There are a lot of incentives for education partners to feed students into the college programs. Are there incentives to feed students into the skilled trades as well? I can just answer, having taught at community college for over 40 years, the programs at the community colleges often also feed them into the skilled trades. They do the pre-apprenticeship courses and oftentimes can do the first year of an apprenticeship through the community college, but that's not the only route, and it doesn't answer your whole question about incentives to feed students into the skilled trades. I don't know, Grace, are you aware of anything in particular around that, or you can just use those flexible funds for it?
Yeah, I think state energy offices could use a lot of the flexible funding to support, helping students go into the trades. I can't think of a specific example right now, but if I do, I'll come off mute.
Yeah, I think I mentioned our union funding opportunity that supports pre-apprenticeships, which are direct entry into union apprenticeship programs. And even some of our career pathway training programs may certainly send students that have completed the basic training into a pre-apprenticeship program, again with a pathway into a union registered apprenticeship program, or directly into the union program. So we certainly support that.
Great. Cynthia Gian asked for the link where they can sign up for the webinar series as well as the newsletter. So
I dropped that in the chat.
It's in the chat. For those of you who missed it in the chat, you just go to National Clean Energy Workforce Alliance. Google it in, and then it takes you right to it. And you will get the invitation. Once you sign up, then you'll get the invitation to the webinars that are coming up, and you'll get more information as well. This question was to Adele, and Adele answered it, but I'm wondering whether others could weigh in about, are there any other states offering on-the-job training wage subsidies? Because it's such a great model. Sarah's looked at other state DOL websites and haven't found anything similar. So do any of you know about other on-the-job? I think a lot of states are designing their stuff now, just so you know, in terms of the timing, but anybody have something to share on that? Okay.
Sorry, just to step
Go
in.
ahead.
Another good example to look into is North Carolina's Steps for Growth program. It kind of grew out of a pre-apprenticeship energy efficiency program that the State Energy Office was supporting. And then they received a grant from EDA to kind of build out this statewide workforce model for clean energy. And I believe they're working with different partners across the state, including community colleges, pre-apprenticeship programs, technical colleges, minority serving institutions. And I think a piece of that is on the job training.
Great. Thank you. All right. Tanisha also asked, and I think it's a great question. Many of these questions have been great. Has anyone been successful in adding workforce development into community benefits agreements? You put in those community benefits agreements. Haven't you heard the project developers come in and they go, well, we looked for people, but we couldn't find them. So then we had to use others. And if there was a training component that was right in there with it, that would prevent them from opting out, right? So any ideas? Cam said he wasn't familiar with the actual language that would be in the community benefits agreement, but they're required for the larger projects.
They are, and for Tennessee, I mean, there's so much going on with all of these grants, and we're such a small team that we're all spread in all different directions, as many state energy offices are. We've been utilizing a consultant to work on our community benefits plans. We have just started to touch the surface of the community benefit plan for the home energy rebate program. Obviously we did one for Solar for All, but I could not at this point tell you what's in it because it's been a couple minutes since we finished that document. But they are pretty intensive, comprehensive documents that are required.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we have seen workforce development initiatives in our community benefit agreements in our large scale renewable projects, and a transmission project I'm thinking about, the Champlain Hudson Power Express, or actually known as Chippy. And I believe in the Chippy program, they dedicated, it was millions, I want to say 5 million, don't quote me, about $5 million for workforce development and training. And they had a competitive solicitation to support community organizations to support the Chippy work. So we have seen that. And one of our large offshore wind developers supported the development of an offshore wind training center on Long Island, working with the IBW, working with that one I think is SUNY Brockport. I'm sorry, Stony Brook. Sorry about that. So we have seen models where they have invested large chunks of money to support workforce training, part of their community benefits agreements.
I think Maryland also has community benefits agreements tied into some of their offshore wind procurement. And then another one to look at in the hydrogen space, I think Connecticut passed some legislation recently requiring community benefits for large hydrogen projects as well.
Okay, so I've just put some things into the chat that actually, and Nola just put in her email, thank you very much, that relate to this question. How can state energy offices help connect and coordinate among all the various players in the workforce development ecosystem, which includes employers, training organizations, community partners, educational institutions, and I would add the different areas of government? So why is it just the state energy offices involved when it should also be the Department of Commerce and the Department of Labor and the economic development funds? So, yeah, Grace, are there things out of the state energy offices that are helping people understand how to build those coalitions?
Yeah, well, would love to hear from the states as well, but NASEO has been helped support some facilitated discussions between state energy offices and state workforce agencies through a project that we did last year to really kind of get at that connection and help states figure out how their priorities align and how the different agencies could coordinate together, especially in taking advantage of all the federal funding opportunities available. And then we've also recently launched a working group that brings together economic development organizations and state energy offices, and workforce development is a topic that keeps coming up in a lot of those discussions.
So I want to point to the thing that I put into the chat. With over 100 countries, we've been doing this work through the clean energy ministers. And so we have there for you a website. And then also we have a toolkit on how to build and I know it's a very long drive.google.com. So you can just Google in SEM for Clean Energy Ministerial, EPI for Empowering People Initiative, and then IPEC, which I'm not going to tell you what it stands for, Integrated Policy and whatever. So just put SEM, EPI, IPEC, it'll come up. You'll see the toolkit there, and it shows the different players in an effective coalition. You want to build that systemic change. So, because we want this to last past this lush of money that's coming through, right? We want to institutionalize these offerings and make sure these pipelines are stable so that we'll continue the transition that we need to an inclusive, clean energy future. Others want to add into this idea of support for building the coalitions?
Well, I think for Tennessee, you know, I mentioned that we will be filling a staff position in the Office of Energy Programs that will be focused entirely on workforce development. I think Tennessee has a really strong economic development department that looks at, you know, jobs that we will definitely want to partner with. So, you know, I think it's exciting to think that we will get to that place. We aren't there just yet. We've got great communication between all the other state agencies. But, you know, it's just a lot of work to bring everyone together and understand who's doing what and how we work together. But exciting to think that we will be working towards that.
Yeah, that's great. And please remember to include everybody, the K-12, like there's a National Association of State Departments of Career and Tech Ed. So include those folks from your state Department of Ed. Of course, there's a community college board normally, so you can get to all the community colleges. And of course, the nonprofits. Please don't be territorial and try and hold on to information now. The needs of the planet and the people are too urgent. We've got to work together and we'll build a bigger pie for everybody for a more sustainable future. Okay, Adele, anything you wanted to add to that? Or also at this point, do you want to just open it up to what questions didn't I ask that you think we should be covering today in the last few minutes of this wonderful webinar that you've given us? Thank you.
Thank you. I think we had a lot of great questions. I don't have anything else to add at this time. Happy to connect with people. If they want to contact me by email.
Yep. Great. Anybody else? Closing comments?
You know,
Yeah.
I'll just add that, oh, sorry, that definitely in Tennessee, I mean, I'm so impressed with the nonprofits and the work that they're doing that we definitely will be working with them and drawing from the expertise that they already have.
Wonderful. Don't forget all those great environmental justice organizations too. Look for them. And the community organizations that have deep wisdom and connections
Yeah.
in the neighborhoods that we want to be
Right.
pulling from. Right?
Mhm.
Deb,
Well,
I'll
yeah,
just
go ahead,
add,
Cynthia.
we're going to send out this recording and we will PDF the slideshow. So the visuals from Hawaii should be adjusted in that PDF, but we will also send out a transcription of the chat so that you'll have the emails, contact information, and questions that were in there. We'll also recap the Q&A. And I believe everybody's email will be listed in that chat as well.
All right. Thank you, everybody. I really look forward to seeing you next month when we'll give you all those free gifts around recruitment. Thank you so much to our speakers and to Cynthia, who's just organizes this so beautifully. Anything else we missed, or should we call it a day?
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks so much for the opportunity.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Bye, everyone.